Welcome back to the Artefactors Union. I'm your host and foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, and today we are assembling a asked for box. The Call to Madness box for the Resurrectionist faction and the Forgotten Keyword. A box contains one Forgotten Marshal, this gentleman right here, and 4 Night Terrors, which are these bat-like people, and the cause of our consternation for the evening. Our renders on the back, he's just a guy standing there with a gun, looking very angry. And then these things, I'm not sure why they need two sets of wings, but we're gonna do them. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Let's look at the sprues. Here is our Forgotten Marshal, and half of the Night Terrors, the other half of the Night Terror. There's just a lot of bits, But I believe in myself, and I believe in you. We can do this. We'll be fine. It's slightly intimidating, but I've done this before, and I don't recall it being the worst thing I've assembled. So let's start with the easy thing, the Forgotten Marshal here. Excuse me. He's going to be pretty simple, I think. We'll grab the body, and then we will go ahead and put the coat on, followed by both arms. We'll do the gun, which is strapped to his shoulder, and the hat, which is also strapped to his more the back of his head, and then the head, and call him good. Now, I'm going to see if I can put up the image of the instructions for just a little bit, because someone asked if I could do that, and I'm not great with shortcuts, so we'll see. And starting with the body, we're going to immediately turn him around and add the cape, or cloak, or whatever. Okay, goes in just fine. Don't really think you need to see it there, but may as well show you everything I can. Now we can get started on the arms. Let's do the right arm first, which is the one holding the gun. Okay, it just fits right in that big space that was there. Easy connection point. The left arm's got nothing in it, and it does kind of fill in the back of the upper arm back here, so might be a little fiddly to wedge in there, but I don't think it's going to be too hard. Let's do that next! Okay, that wasn't even, difficult. Went in just fine. Nothing really in the way. We're good. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Looks good. Okay, actually we need the back here, because we are going to add the gun next, which is going to go into this smaller hole here, with the handle obviously pointed up. Okay, pretty easy. Not a whole lot of wiggle to it either, so you should do fine. Now, the amount of space we have left here is going to dictate how the hat sits, because you can see the connection point is offset, so if I just turn this 180 degrees, that is going to be the way it fits into the model. You know, like that, but with glue. And of course, by glue, I mean plastic cement, but you probably understood what I meant. Anyways, we've got a head to add, and that's it, so do the thing. There we go. Now, I notice this is a fairly flat connection, so you could have him staring on, or just be ever so slightly standoffish if you want. Literally 2 possibilities. He's done. Put him on a base. The Forgotten Marshal is done. Hardest part for this assembly was figuring out the orientation of the hat, maybe? Not really. It was just super easy. But we'll make up for that lack of difficulty with the rest of the box. Sure, we'll say the gun on his back, or no, his head, because you can adjust the way he's looking, kind of. Yeah, that is the hardest part. Okay, now let's do this. Okay, we can do this. Here is our first Night Terror, and order I am relatively, I shouldn't say, I think is going to be the 2 halves of the torso first. Then we'll do both the left leg and the right leg, followed by the left foot and the right foot. Left foot, right foot. And then we'll get started on the arms. We've got a left upper wing plus the arm, a left lower wing plus the arm. I'm guessing on these arms, we'll see if I'm correct. The upper right wing and the arm, the lower right wing and the arm, followed by the two halves of the head, which we'll add on as well. And as far as these go, we will add the arm to the wing first and then glue that to the body. Once we're all done with all that, we do the 3 pieces of the base, put that together, and then we slap his butt onto the pillar thing. It'll be fine. Anyways, now for the instructions, just to have them as a reference. Back half of the torso, plus the front half of the torso. Got these big old holes on the side for the 2 wings. So let's next do our legs. Just a reminder where those are. Our left leg, plus our left foot, right leg, right foot. And unlike the wings, we'll add the legs to the body, and then the feet to the legs that are attached to the body. Okay? Alright, there's our left leg in. And the views, you can see it's sort of pointed outwards, so the knee is not going straight forward. There's just the tiniest ridge here on the belt that will tell you where it's supposed to go. And there it is from the back. Okay, let's add our left foot now. Haha, that was not the left foot. I should know better than to just guess by its appearance. You can tell by the connection point. It's pretty obvious. The connection point here, really big, but there's also this back part, whereas there is none of that back part here. However, if we go and look at the other foot, there's this nice clearly defined ridge, which should have both connection points. So let's grab this one, which I guess is our actual left foot. There we go, that's our foot. Looking very foot-like, I guess. Ow. Reminder to not stab yourself with a knife if you can help it. As far as getting that in correctly, it was easy to put pressure at the top of the bit here with pokey stick. And then I just had to nudge it down a little bit because this popped up, but you can see it is supposed to be sort of staggered from the rest. It's like a metal plate, whereas the rest of it's also metal plate or some kind of sleeve or some. It's separate metal plate from this, so these aren't supposed to be flush. Right, okay. Let's do our right leg now. Blah. This guy. And you can see that they will lock together pretty nicely, the 2 different legs, because you got this peg here, which is going to go into this hole right here on the left leg. That also might make it just a little weird to get them to jam together with a nice seam. That was so easy that I didn't really need even give you that hint with the peg. Real simple. Now let's put that foot on there that I cut off earlier that you should have kept on the sprue, because remember, you shouldn't be doing this before watching it all the way through once. And that is a little bit cleaner of a seam than the left foot. They're both going on how they're supposed to be, but it doesn't look like it's so much obvious as an obvious gap. Blah. I'm stumbling over my words. It looks good. Now let's go ahead and get started with the arms. Yeah. Okay. First up, our upper left arm, which I'm pretty sure is this one. And I'm also kind of certain that this is the bit, that sort of actual arm, hand part of the wing. And we'll clip this out and we'll add this to it before we jam it into the shoulder of the Night Terror. Here's our wing. Our connection point is going to be this thin strip right along here. Kind of hard to see on camera, but it's there. As well as the base right here. It's harder to see on the arm, but it's there. And I think the most obvious spot is right here. That's obviously a connection point. Should go down that way, and obviously down here. It'll look better when I actually attach it. Okay, there it is attached. It looks alright. The big indicator that we got it in the right spot, though, is you can actually see the rest of the hand right here. So this sort of bone and the forefinger aligns correctly. You can barely see the seam, so it looks a lot better from the back. Now let's jam this into his shoulder. And it was then I realized that can't go in with the torso as a complete two pieces. This is why I do this, so that you can see my mistakes and learn from them. So yeah, what I think we're going to do is we're going to attach these arms to the back of the torso, and then once we're all done, we'll jam that onto the rest of the body. Yeah. So, the obvious thing being here, you see this bulbous part of the connection point. That just won't go through this hole in the shoulder with both the pieces of the torso connected, so we're just gonna glue it here now. That looks real good, like it's supposed to go there. It'll look even better if I didn't glue the torso together initially. Yay, Doug. Alright, let's look at our next wing. We're gonna go ahead and do the lower left wing. It should be this guy, and I believe this is the arm we're looking for. And here's our wing. Connection's kind of small again, however we do still have the hand on the back of the wing to use as a reference. There it is again. The tweezers really saved me on this. It's just a small piece into a small crevice, and if you get any of that plastic cement on your fingers, it's going to mess probably a lot of stuff up. So I call this good, and we'll add it to the torso now. More specifically, the back half of the torso. It's going to fit right in this little corner thing here. I'll probably dry fit it with the front of the torso just to make sure it all fits nice and snug. There we go. It's almost pointed straight forward, and it looks like it fits in there pretty neatly. Dry fitting it, though, against the other half of the torso really helped. I'm going to check this seam on the back sort of shoulder thing, make sure that gap isn't too big. So let's hurry along with our wings so that we can put the whole body together, okay? Upper right wing is going to be this one, and upper right arm this one. Then we will attach that to the torso, followed by the bottom right wing and the bottom right arm, attach that to the torso, and jam the torso onto the rest of the body. Here's the wing, same connection point as the other side, plus that nice hand as a reference. Yeah, I'm getting the hang of this. It looks good if I don't drop it. Other side for reference. Now let's put that on the torso. Before, another nice and snug connection. Let's do our last wing. Just a quick look at the back. Not a bad seam. Last wing, exact same situation as the other three. This one was kind of hard, but then I remembered I had tweezers, which again made this a lot easier than it could have been. Or a lot easier. Yeah, whatever. Easy. Let's let that on the torso. Okay, you can see this kind of comes to a point here, and then it's just going to fit right in this nice point here. The wing is effectively pointed down, so check against the render, but yeah, that's what we're going for. Okay, these are our wings. Now let's very gently add it to our body. Okay, there we go. That was actually kind of easy. Pretty happy with that. If you're having trouble, you might need to pop it off and realign the wings ever so slightly. You should be able to tell by where the big gaps are what you're having problems with. Now let's look at the rest of our sprue. Turn that right side up. Got the two halves of the head, which will pop on the body. And then add this piece and this piece to this piece, and then we'll combine the body and the terrain. Here's the top of our head. Now we add the lower jaw. Roar. Okay, plop that on the body. Before we do that, notice that there is this nice ridge right here that separates two different connection points, and that has a lovingly corresponding ridge right here that's around the back of the neck. There we go. I would check and make sure your wings are not loose. I noticed the bottom right wing was giving me a bit of a wiggle, so I re-cemented it. Let's work on the terrain. Here is our base, and our next bit is going to be the pole pillar thing right here. It is going to connect on this lovely connection point. You can see that. Sides that you're not touching right now, just for reference. And our connection point on the other bit is right here. There we go. Seems to look alright. And check the bottom for evenness. Alright, let's get the bricks on there. Our bits are just going to attach to this side of the rubble. Note that there is a nice connection point right there. It'll correspond to a part here on the bricks. So bricks are just going to go on like that. That looks good. Kind of a mess, so your big judge of how good it is looking at the base like usual. Okay, let's figure out how to put the Night Terror on there. Okay, I think I know where this foot is supposed to go. And it is actually going to be... Where is my pointing stick of choice? Here it is. The foot is going to fit right in here. You can see this sort of curve. It actually accommodates the shape of the foot fairly well. And it matches what's going on in the render. Let's see if I can show you that here. But I'm going to go ahead and... yeah, something like that. I'm going to go ahead and put it down on the ground, on the base, and then glue the Night Terror to the base, as well as this, and we'll see what it turns out to look like. Okay, it doesn't quite match the render, but I'm not going to fuss over minor details. He's on the base. It looks good. The foot is fairly well connected, and also you can definitely glue it to the base right here. I probably should have done that instead of super gluing him to the base and nothing else. Looks like you can maybe attach the claw of this wing to this pillar as well for additional support. Plus a little bit of rotation. You could probably put this elbow on the pillar too, which I might do, which will make it look even less like the render, but it'll be pretty stable. So let's call him good. Night Terror number 1 is done. We're going to call him Lexington. I was not having fun with assembly. First off, obviously, you gotta attach the arms in before you can glue the two halves of the torso together. I'm sorry about that. And then really figuring out the debris on the base and where the foot goes with all that was also quite painful. And the arms. The arms, figuring out how the arms work was also difficult. But the more of these we do, because like all of them have the arms separate, the better we'll get at it, and I think it should be fine by the time you're done assembling all of these. But let's hope the next one isn't quite as hard. Okay, the next Night Terror is listed as Night Terror C on the sprue, however it is Night Terror 2 in the instructions, keep that in mind. This one is going to go slightly differently, however I do think we can actually combine the two halves of the torso. There doesn't seem to be any obvious sort of like connection point where you have to glue it to the inside before you can combine the two pieces. We'll see if I'm right or not. After that, we'll do the two thighs and the 2 feet. And then we can go ahead and get started on the wings. We'll do the lower wings first, actually. So the lower left wing plus, I think this is the arm that goes with it. And the lower right wing, and this is the arm that goes with it. Relatively certain of that. Then the upper left wing, sure, is in 2 pieces, and neither of them are the little arms, so that'll be nice. It's this piece, and then the upper right wing is going to be this one, and these little fingies. We'll finish with the head, and that's the entire body, and then we can add it onto the singular piece of terrain. The only specific connection point you can see obviously is right here, which is attached to this foot right here. Okay, so let's start with the 2 halves of the torso. The front half of our torso plus the back half, you can see 2 slots for the 2 wings on the right side, and it looks like the wings are going to be touching each other on the left side. But now we can look at our legs. The nice thing is that there are 2 different connection points, so we won't be able to get them wrong. One is flat, and one has a tooth and groove situation. And on here, this is the flat connection point, so this will be our left leg. This is the one with the tooth, so this will be our right leg. Okay, there we go. That's our left leg. Look at all of our seams, if the camera will focus. Okay, Let's do our right leg now. Okay, make sure you get that seam in the crotch to look pretty good. Here is our right leg. So now let's figure out our feet. It looks like on the instructions, at least the left foot is the one with the connection point to the post. So this is our left foot, and this will be our right foot then. Thankfully, we have a lovely connection point here with the two tiered spots that will glue to both of those. Same situation with the right foot, looks like that too. There's the left leg. Just see if I can get all the angles. Looks good. Now do the right leg. And now there's our right leg, too. Okay, now let's figure out these wings. Okay, reminder, I'm pretty certain our back right wing is going to be this one with this arm. Our back left wing is going to be this one with this arm. Here's our right wing, and the arm is going to fit like all the other ones had been, right along here. And it looks like this is the hand to use as a reference. Actually, I think it might be gluing to the outside part more here. Yeah, that looks like a connection point. I'd say that's slightly awkward, mostly because the connection point here is kind of on this side of the wing, but effectively it crosses over, and the connection for the fingers is on this side of the wing. But it looks good, so we'll add it to our body right in here. Okay, this is getting a little fiddly, but we want it to roughly be as up high as possible. So just try to fill in the gaps on either side as well as you can, but you will probably need to hold it in the correct position you want and let it sit there for a bit before it'll cure enough where you can let go of the wing. But as you see, mine looks pretty good at every angle. I'm happy with it. So let's get started on the other wing. Here's our back left wing. You can see the connection point right along here, as well as right there, and the back of the hand that we're now looking for. Alright, so that's not going to work. I apologize, got it wrong again. We're going to need to do our left arm before we can figure out how that wing goes in there, so sadly we'll need to clip out the bit that was here. Sorry for hitting the camera. It looks like this guy. And you see this big old connection point, and that's pretty much going to take up most of the real estate of this right here. That's a pretty easy connection. So now we can add their wing back there. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, a little tutorial on this for us. The sort of ball of the shoulder is going to go right in here. The membrane of the wing will continue across this line here, and then this sort of notch up here is just the arm that's going up to spread the wing out. So effectively you're looking at like that. Here, let me glue that. It will be a lot easier if you have something to poke it in there, but you can see my seams are all looking pretty good. So since we already put the one part of the left arm, let's do the other part of the upper left arm wing thing, this guy. And you see our normal connection point. This is not normal since we're not doing an arm and a full wing here, but it's going to be along here. And down here, this is where the fist will be. But since he is actually sort of walking on his knuckles, it's actually going to fit together kind of like this. Okay, this was a bit of an effort, but I got it on there. The biggest, like, solid connection you're going to get in the wrist here. This is pretty hard to do. If you keep seeing gaps, you're probably not rotating the wing towards the body enough, like how close it is here. And that should close the gaps almost completely. Now the other issue was gluing. Once you got it in the position you think it's good in, I would take another bit of plastic cement, run it along the seam, and then just wiggle it a little bit, which should solidify the connection point. But we're done with this wing, so we'll go ahead and do our last one, which is like a full wing, and then these fingies right here, which will go in like right there. Okay, yep, that's our connection point right along here. And our tinier finger is going to be one that's sort of floating towards the front of the model. Now I'm just going to glue it. Took a lot of poking to get it in there, but there we go. Alright, now let's jam that in our last shoulder hole thing on our boy. The wing is pointed down because he's sort of crouch perching on top of this terrain bit, but if you aren't terribly careful or you don't trust yourself, make sure you let these cure before you continue moving on with the assembly, otherwise you're going to knock stuff out of place. I didn't actually do it this time, that was just a helpful reminder I just remembered. Okay, we've got a head and a terrain piece, so we'll just clip those out and do each of them. There's our head. And it was an easy enough connection. I didn't bother to do like, hey, this is what it looks like beforehand. Check underneath the chin. That's the seam you're looking for to make sure it's fine. Now let's look at our terrain piece, or basing, whatever. So remember the hole that our left foot was in. The other thing that I know where it goes is the right foot, and you can see these lines right here. These are actually like claw marks. So the right foot is going to sit right up here. I know the right arm is touching somewhere on here. I'm just not sure where. So I think those two connection points are good enough. So let's do that. All right, there we go. You could probably connect the finger up here to this part and maybe even adjust the wing so it's touching it more concretely, but these two spots are pretty good. It does not look like the left arm is touching anything, but I could be wrong just because how fiddly the arms are, that just mine might just be ever so slightly out of place, but you can see the two spots where the feet connect. It looks good. Let's put them on a base. Knight's Terror number 2 is done. We're going to call this one Brooklyn. I guess most difficult besides the arms was figuring out how to get the wings in there and realizing I got the order wrong. And really that split on the upper left wing was really wonky. Not the most difficult getting onto the basing, so that was nice, but yeah, wings everywhere. Kind of a hot mess, but like in a nice looking way. Let's move on. Oh boy, it has been multiple days since I worked on this, but let's get back to it. Our third Night Terror, or in this case, Night Terror B, depending on what you're looking at. It's the next one. This is going to be a few more bits. I think most of that is to do with the terrain that is on the base, but it's going to be pretty similar to other assemblies. 2 halves of the torso, then upper left wing, bottom left wing, upper right wing, bottom right wing, and we'll figure out which claw goes to which after that. Once those are in, we'll do the 2 legs, the 2 bits of the head, which are here and here. This armor piece, I think, goes over the shoulder of the upper right wing, and that should be the entirety of our actual Night Terror, and then we can do all the different bits of the terrain and figure out how to attach them. So, long story short, we'll start with these 2 pieces. Back of the torso, plus the front of the torso. Check our bottom, make sure it lines up correctly. Now, I realize that he's got a lower pelvis plus thighs, so let's go and do that bit next. Okay, might as well do his entire lower half, so we'll grab this, add it to our torso, and then as far as our legs and their alignment, this is our right leg and this is our left leg. If you compare these to the render, this tiny little digit thumb right here, which is supposed to be on the inside of the body. Here's how I can tell this is the right and this is the left. So, our 3 next bits. Okay, this is our pelvis attached to the torso. Now, let's go ahead and add our leg, starting with the right leg. Okay, there's the right leg. Check our seams, everything looks good. Now let's do the left leg. Also not too hard of a connection. And now we've got his entire lower half done. We can get started on the wings. Let's look at the sprue. Yeah, I'd like to try doing the lower left wing first, which is this one. And corresponding hand is this one, I believe. And then hopefully we can move on to the upper left wing, which is this guy, and the corresponding arm being this one. I'll let you know if I'm wrong, but let's start with this guy. The fun thing about taking a multiple day hiatus for a charity event is you forgot your dumb mistakes from assembling the same damn box. So, yeah, you can't put the two pieces of the torso together until you get the wings in there. I can't believe I forgot that, but as you can see here, I've cracked it open, and so I should be able to shove that upper left wing in there, which means we'll have to do the upper left wing first. I'm very sorry. Yeah, let's do that wing now. There's the wing, and there's the arm following our now understood formula of making sure it fits with the hand that's attached to the wing bit. Looks good. I'll probably try to fill that gap a little bit down there, but now let's jam that in the torso. And there it is, shoved into the torso, and the torso reclosed. Yay, Doug. Okay, now let's do that lower left wing. Wing. Now we add the arm, and we can shove it into this small hole underneath the larger wing. And it's pointed almost, well, I guess slightly down, but it's not upright like the other wing. Okay, now we work on the right side. Let's do the lower right wing, because I'm pretty sure the upper right wing doesn't have to actually like have the torso separated to get it in there. So we'll do this with this arm, and then this guy with this arm. Wait, no. I've got this upside down. Try to keep it oriented if at all possible. Okay. Lower right wing, lower right arm, upper right wing, upper right arm. Okay, our right arm, lower right arm. Sorry, that was the lower right wing. Now this is the lower right arm attached to the lower right wing. Let's shove that in his side now. I'm just not on the ball today. I apologize. The upper right arm is going to need to go in first, just because it's partially what the lower right arm connects to. So let's go and do that one now. Here's the wing. And the right arm added to that. Now let's shove this into the shoulder. At least I didn't have to pull open the torso again, but it goes in just fine. Now let's add that lower right wing. And there that is. Looking good. Let's go ahead and do the last three pieces of our Knight Terror. First up is this armor piece, which is going to go on that upper right shoulder. Then we have the lower jaw, which will attach to the neck, and then the rest of the head, which will attach to this piece. And then we just have terrain. Okay, our armor piece is going to go right there. And that's what it looks like attached. Now let's do that lower jaw. If we look at it real closely, we can see a tongue, which will be on top. Okay, there it is attached. It will slide around a bit, but you can see this little bit of the neck on the torso that's sticking up. So as long as that curve here seems nice and flush, then we're good. Now just add the top of the head to it. Blah. Let's take a look at the back of the neck real quick. Yeah, he's fine and dandy. Now let's do this stuff that goes on the base. So we've got an independent piece. These two go together, and according to the instructions, they don't really attach to anything. We'll see what we can do to make it look like the render, though. But as far as this pillar goes, this will be touching the base, then this will go on top of it, connecting to this connection point right here in this hole, and this will go on top of this. So let's combine these two bits first. This build just keeps getting worse. Okay, I do know that this piece and this piece connect. But I'm not entirely sure how this piece goes in there quite yet. Whoops. This singular one. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this thing, attach it to the base, figure out how to attach this to it, and where that other piece goes, trying our hardest to match the render, and then we'll attach the Night Terror, alright? So let's grab this guy and put this cap on it. There we go. There's only one way it'll fit on there, so don't think too hard about it. Now as far as the cap that goes on that, you can see it has this ring on the inside with a notch in it that corresponds to this tooth right there. Ta-da! Alright, let's attach this to a base now. Okay, got it glued to a base. Now our connection point to that stack is right here. You can just barely see a connection point right there, as well as this indentation. And that will correspond to this notch right here, and this part of the brickwork will be in that indentation. So you can kind of see how that notch is on the bottom. Okay, I think that will do well enough. It looks almost identical to the render, so we'll call it good. The render has this last bit. Seems to be just sitting in between these two pieces. I don't see a real obvious connection point. I'll let you know if that changes when I add it to the base. Ah, I found it. I am very smart. Not easy to see, but there is what I believe to be a connection point right here. It's just ever so slightly distorted from the rest of the pattern on the plastic, and that is going to connect to on this guy right here. This corner will just tuck under that stack bit in front. Let me show you. There we go. It fits nice and tight, and if you see that and compare it to the render, let's see, that's almost exact. Pretty proud of myself. Okay, let's figure out how to jam the Night Terror on there. Well, I couldn't find a place to attach him, so I just tried to match the render and ended up gluing his back to the pillar with super glue. But yeah, this part doesn't matter all that much. I'm here mostly to teach you how to assemble him, and the last connecting him to the base stuff that you don't need to use in the first place. I mean, I feel bad about it, but it still looks good. So now we can call him good and do the review. Night Terror number 3 is done. We're going to call this one Hudson. God, these are getting hard. Attaching them to the base, I'm kind of giving up on that, sorry. Was the hardest thing, as well as figuring out how the base even worked. Yeah. Arms, still also a difficult thing, but really used to it by now, so they aren't bugging me nearly as much as the pacing is. Yep, but he looks real good, so not the end of the world. Let's move on to our last one. Okay, so for our last Night Terror, this one I think is going to be the simplest. Hooray. I hope I'm right. Let's focus on sprue first. I think we'll grab the upper part of the torso and then add the 2 extra arms, 1 and 2. Then we'll add the lower part of the torso on the back and add the arms to that, 1 and 2. Then we'll do a leg, a thigh, another thigh, our 2 feet, the head, and then we get to attach it to the one piece of terrain, and then we're good. So let's grab this bit and then do the right arm and the left arm. Here's our torso. Now add our right arm. Okay. Quick inspection on the back. Looks real good. Now let's do the left arm. Also looking good. Yep. Okay, now let's cut out our second set of wings. This guy. Turn this the right way. This guy, and then the 2 arms. This is our right arm and our left arm. Before the right arm, after the right arm. Okay, good. Now let's do our left arm. Okay, that looks good. Let's check the back of the hand. That's fine. Now let's just add this to our the rest of the torso. The front part of the torso? Front part of the torso. There we go. Okay, goes on just fine. Looks good from the back and from the front. So now let's get started on our legs. This is going to be our right leg, it's our right thigh, and then I believe this is the right leg. Let's check for the thumb. Yep, the thumb is going to be on the inside, so this is our right leg. And then our left thigh is over here, and our left leg is going to be this one. So let's start with the right. Okay, here's our right thigh, and it's roughly half of the connection point for left thigh, so glad I started with this one. Let's look at our connection point, pretty big one on the back of the knee, and that's where we'll put our right leg. Solid, easy connection. Almost no seam. Great. Okay, now we'll do the left thigh. Okay, another pretty easy connection. Now I'll do the left foot, which is just going to go right on there. And there we go. Whole body is done, with the exception of the head. We'll just plop on top. There's only 2 bits left. I think you can figure out which one's the head. There's the head. Quick look at the neck. And on the back side. Alright, now all we need to do is figure out how to get him on the terrain. I wasn't going to fight this for hours on end. I just glued it to the leg where I thought it looked closest to the render and called it good. And he looks good. He looks good. Let's review him. Our 4th and final Night Terror is done. We're going to call this one Broadway. This is easily the easiest one out of all of the 4. If you decide that you only ever want to field one Night Terror, then you'll probably want to do this guy. The arms, difficult like usual, and of course attaching them to the flavor on the base was kind of hard, but really that was it. So yeah, out of all of them, definitely the easiest. Now let's look at the whole box. The Call to Madness box is all done, containing 1 Forgotten Marshal and 4 Night Terrors. Madness is a good word to describe it. These were tough. These guys were really tough, but they've been notoriously tough for several years at this point. Really hope by 4th edition we get new sculpts, because I wouldn't want to put people through this in general. But I think now that we have instructions, they're going to be a lot easier to handle. As I said before, if you only want one, definitely do the last one, the one that's sort of flying through the arch, because that is by and far the easiest out of the 4. But I'm done. I'm glad I'm done. Maybe next time I'll do something slightly easier. But they're done. They're done. I'm proud of myself for helping you out with this. I've been your foreman, Douglas Scoundrels, helping you build a better Malifaux. Enjoy your baddie boys.